There we go. All right. So to get started, my name is Amber Bismack. For those that are new, I live on the north side of Ore Lake. And myself and Diane started this. Diane, wave. There's Diane. We started our organization, Residents Working Against Huron River Flooding, about two and a half years ago now. It's making some progress. And we started because of all the consistent and increasing flooding in our community. And so from that, we were able to kind of hit the ground running and take off. And we have some folks on that have helped us with that process. So let me start sharing my screen so you can see a little bit of what we're doing. All right, here we go. So Residents Working Against Huron River Flooding, that's who we are. Today is our organization meeting, which we try and do every few months at least. So like I said, I'm Amber Bismack. I'm the director and co-founder with Diane, our assistant director. Andrea sadly isn't able to be here today. She's our amazing secretary. Jeff Henry has been voluntold as our website developer, so he gets to do that work. And Carrie Adams, who's also on, has been chairing the efforts with the upstream water inputs and the study work that we're doing there, which I'll go ahead and talk about in a moment. So when Diane and I started this organization back in spring of 2020, one of the things that we connected with the Huron River Watershed Council, and they recommended that we reach out to these folks, the Thriving Earth Exchange, which is part of the American Geological Union. And what they do is they actually partner scientists and other folks with communities like ours that are struggling with environmental issues, in our case, flooding. Other people deal with like wildfires or pollution or things like that. And so they partner folks in communities with scientists that are going to actually help in their particular area. So for us, and what they do first is they have connect every community with a community science fellow, which we have Claire Zarakis, and she's joining us today all the way from University of Washington. She has been remarkable in this whole process. She started with us in the summer, I believe, of 2020. And she was the person who was instrumental in getting us connected with 3 different hydrologists. One is Dr. Wendy Robertson, who is a professor at Central Michigan and works in hydrology, and she's come out and helped us with a few things, as well as Scott Dirks, who is down at GEI Consultants in Ann Arbor, also a hydrologist. And Wendy was able to also put us in touch with Rod Lammers, who is also a professor at Central Michigan. And his area is flooding and hydrology, but more specifically in the engineering and modeling side. And so what these folks have been doing is they've actually been helping us study all the water coming in upstream. So for those of you that are new, Hamburg Township, where we are, has done a lot of work looking at our lake and downstream at the water outflow, so how the water flows out. But there hasn't been any work looking at how the water's coming in upstream. And so because of that lack of not knowing what the water's coming in upstream and the fact that we have a lot of water coming in upstream, that's why we're working with these wonderful folks. So to give you kind of, I'm trying to think where we are. So to give you, sorry, this is a sneak preview. To give you kind of a background on that, we have 2 creeks flowing into Ore Lake here. We have South Ore Creek and we have Dubrova Creek. Dubrova Creek is the creek that runs right behind Branch Drive and underneath Mohican and such, and up by Hamel. And that's smaller, that drains basically from the Metro Park down to us. And then, oh, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm gonna pause for a second. Diane, can you send the Zoom link to Jay? He's trying to get in and apparently is in the wrong place. I'm sorry. So yeah, so we have Dubrova Creek flowing in from the Metro Park, and then we have South Ore Creek, which is a fairly large creek, and the watershed for that, all of the water that lands at M59 southward all flows literally to us as a point. And so all of that water is coming in, but we don't know necessarily how much water is coming in and where it's coming from. And so these folks have helped us actually install gauges. Carrie is the one kind of helping lead that effort. Install gauges. We have 2 gauges on Dubrova Creek, 2 gauges on South Ore Creek, and 1 gauge at the outflow at the culvert from Little Ore Lake into the Huron River to actually study where all that water is coming, with the hope that once we figure out where the water is coming from and how much, that we can start to do some work upstream to try and hold some of that water back so we don't keep getting hit with it. So that's the work that started all of us off. And from there, we've had lots of different projects branch off of that. And today I'm going to talk about a few of those that have been going on. But one of the things, as promised, some of you folks voted on our logo. So we have it. This is our new logo. So thanks. We had a high school student from Innovation Academy, who's the one who developed the logo for us, and then we were trying to figure out what to do with all the wording and all this stuff. So this is our new logo that you'll see. If folks end up getting shirts, we'll put them on business cards, flyers, on our website, all that stuff. So this is what you're going to see in the future. So this is us, which is exciting. All right, so one of the groups that we work with is, as I said, Innovation Academy. And with Innovation Academy, they are a high school, an alternative high school here in Howell, Michigan. And they have students, basically what they do is it's different than a typical high school. You're not really sitting in the classroom per se, but instead their students actually take on different projects. And they have some awesome students who've been taking on some projects for us in different capacities. So we have some students who've actually developed an underwater drone. And so they've come out trying to run the drone through some of the culverts to see how much sediment's filling up the culverts, which affects the water flow. So it's one of the things that they've done this year. As you can see here by the pictures, this was actually earlier today. A number of us went out. We have a student here with us, Lena, who is joining us today, and we'll be meeting with her a little bit in a few minutes as well. And a few other students came out and we actually walked Dubrova Creek. We have some GPS units. And so one of the projects they're going to be taking on, started kind of a little bit today, but really taking it on more next year. In the next academic year is actually mapping out the watershed for Dubrova Creek, because that's one that actually has never been mapped. So we don't know where that water is coming from. We have no idea where the edges of that watershed is. And so that's one of the projects they're going to be taking on with us, along with a few others. So these are some pictures today. So we started here doing some looking at some maps to figure out kind of where we were. And then we actually so you can see Diane here helping some students figure out how to use the actual GPS units. And then from there, we got our waders on and actually jumped in the creeks and I started using the GPS units to kind of map out the creek itself. A few students and a few of us as well, Diane included, actually got stuck in the creek, but luckily we all made it out alive and have all of our shoes and all of those things. So it was a good day, hot day, but a good day. So like I said, one of the things they've done is the underwater drone footage. We talked about that. Yeah.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Jay's asking for 2 people that need contact or they need the link, and I don't have their contact information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's a couple people that we used the link that was in the join meeting on the Facebook.
Oh.
Go to the website link. Go to the website link.
Yeah, the website link, the Stricklers, the Richardsons, and the
I wondered where they all were. Okay.
I'm
sorry.
On the
Strickler, Richardson, and Hammond. I think Hammond. Keith Hammond. And
I don't know that one.
I don't know. I don't remember the couple.
Right. So they were joining from the website or from Facebook?
From Facebook. I just hit join meeting, and that's where we ended up.
Okay, so we want them to go to the website instead of Facebook.
Hold on one second. I apologize, folks, on the confusion here.
Yeah, but maybe it's not. Maybe Facebook does something different.
All right.
Everybody get a 5-minute drink break, okay?
Hopefully not 5 minutes. Should not take that long. Give me
Hold
one
on,
second.
we're just checking, and then JD, I'm talking to you right now. You could forward your link that I sent you in your text to those guys if you have their contact info. You don't have anything. You're muted.
Yeah, I don't know who they are really, so I don't have their contact, and I couldn't be in 2 Zooms at once.
Are they still over there?
I don't know. I'm not in that one anymore.
All right. I just posted it on our Facebook page, and I emailed the other 2 folks that I do have contacts for. So they hopefully will be joining in a moment. I apologize for any confusion there.
No, it's all right.
The joys of technology.
See, not Dale. Bob thinks he's the only one that has trouble with technology. No.
All right. I'm going to get back to sharing in a second here. Let me make sure I don't have other folks not making it here. There we go. Now we got some folks coming on.
Yeah.
All right. I apologize for the confusion, Carol and Kurt and Jeff. That was a mistake.
It's okay. I think we got the other 2 here, so I think we're okay.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So we got everyone back in the right spot. All right. So I was just really doing a kind of overview of our organization, which you all know plenty about. So that's nothing new really that you missed. What I was telling folks about is about our partnership with the Innovation Academy, which is the alternative high school in Howell. Showing some pictures here. Some of the students, along with Jay, who's on the call, came out today, and one of their science teachers, Zach, came out, and we actually walked the creek with GPS units and started mapping out Dubrova Creek, which was a pretty fun experience. Very hot though. And then I also mentioned at a previous meeting that some other students came out and have an underwater drone. And so they've worked on trying to get the drone to work through some of the culverts to kind of see how much sediment's filling up the culverts and affecting the water flow there. And they'll continue, I believe, can probably continue that work this next year. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight today is another student. We have Lena on the call. Lena has been a rock star in this, and she has actually been looking at GIS and looking at land use changes in the Brighton area, which is upstream of us, to see, well, what does that actually mean for the potential of affecting water? Because of course, if you have, instead of having grass or a wetland, if you start putting a concrete parking lot, well, now you have a bunch of water flow instead of water actually being held there from a wetland. So the more what we call impermeable surfaces or hard surfaces, the more flooding we're going to have. And so what Lena was doing is looking at some of that work. And so she actually put together a video talking us through very well, very impressive video, which I'm going to play here for you in a second. Actually talking through some of the things that she found. So what I figured, Lena, since you're on the call, is what I do is I'd play the video, and then afterward, if you want to say a few other things, if you have anything else to share, and then folks can ask some questions. Does that seem okay, Lena?
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Now, I think, let me know if you are not able to hear the sound when I get started.
I don't think it's working.
All right. That means I shared my screen incorrectly. I apologize. Let me try that again. Oh my gosh. I apologize, people. For some reason, Zoom is not letting me share sound. Give me 1 second. More technology issues. I actually have to step away for a second to solve this issue. I'll be right back. I'm very sorry about this.
Don't apologize. We're good.
Hey, Sarah, can you tell me your last name in minutes? I guess Sarah's not listening.
Phillips.
Phillips, thank you.
Yeah, Keith and Sarah Phillips.
Okay.
Hi, guys. When you coming back?
All right, and Dale, what's your last name again?
They're here. Sorry.
Oh,
Yep, they're back.
good.
Who's Dale? Yeah, these guys that you work with on the. No, Keith and Sarah Phillips.
Yep.
All right, so hopefully this works now. Sorry about that. I'm on my work computer and I needed the admin password that I did not have. I had to run and get that. All right, so let's try this again and hopefully this will work. Let me know if you still can't hear the sound.
Hello, I'm Lena, and today I'm going to show you the development change within the watershed that goes into Ore Lake from the years 2000 to 2021. Right now, you are looking at a map of the watershed in 2000. Right here, as I move my cursor, this is the border of the watershed. You can see these red lines right here, and that is the border. And right down here is Ore Lake. These red lines surrounding it are other borders of other watersheds. You might be wondering what all these different colors on the map represent. I am currently using a layer that shows different kinds of land and development that is present. Today we are going to be focusing on the relationship between the development and wetlands over the years. As you can see, if I zoom in so you can see a little bit better, all of this pink represents development. And as the pink gets darker, the higher the intensity of the development is. So in other words, more development is present in the darker red areas. If I zoom in even more and show kind of like what the green means and stuff, and I have the key right next to it so you can kind of see for yourself, but like this darker green right here represents forests, different type of forestry. This lighter green, which is what we'll be focusing more on, are woody wetlands. And then this really light kind of bluish green is called emergent herbaceous wetland. And this plain blue right here is just water, like ponds and lakes and that kind of stuff. So like I said earlier, this is the watershed shown in the year 2000. And if you look at this bar down here, you know, it shows the date December 31st, 2000. And as I move this cursor down here, if I move this bar, you'll be able to see the changes in the development in different types of land throughout the years. I'm just showing the changes, so it's in 2000 right now. I'm just showing the changes from then to now. Going back to 2000 to the end of 2021. And you can see that there is a distinct change, but you can tell that there's a lot happening. Since it's a lot to look at once, I've divided the watershed into 4 sections. Let me put it back to the year 2000. You can see I added black lines that divide the sections, and I focused on the relationship between the development and wetlands in each section. So if we zoom up north of the watershed into the first section, we can see that there are lots of different types of circles. I categorize the different types of circles in colors. Each color represents a different kind of change that is happening. So first are the red circles, which show development being added into the wetlands between the years 2000 and 2021. So for an example, if I zoom into this red circle here, this one right here. Again, we are in the year 2000 right now, and I move this bar down here to the year 2021, you can see a lot of development expanded and overlapped on top of the light green. So this is 2000 right here, and you can see the light green all right here. And this is 2021. There's a lot that was added. And you can see that up there in this red circle too. This is the year 2000, and then move it to 2021. Even something like down here, there's a red circle right here. This is the year 2000. And then this is the year 2021. Even though they are just small pixels, like these 2 pixels were not here before in the year 2000. Not there. And then 2021, they appeared. It looks very minor, but there's still new development in those wetlands. You can also see in the year 2000, the development right next to the wetlands is lower intensity than when it was in 2021. The intensity increased, which leads me to the second type of change, which is development that already exists but becomes more intense next to those wetlands. And that's what the black circles represent. So for an example, if we go down here, this is a good example. This is in the second section, so northern Brighton. This is the year 2000. We have some development here and some woody wetlands right here. And if I move this bar down here to 2021, you can see that the pink got darker next to the wetlands, but it didn't expand into it. So again, this is 2000. You know, you can see lighter pink right here. It's a little darker right over here. But if we go into 2021, there's a lot of darker pink right here, more like a red color. And just south of that black circle is a blue circle, which represents changes with just the wetland. And since there are 2 different types of wetlands, woody and emergent herbaceous wetlands, sometimes they change from one to the other. So we are in the year 2021 right now. If we go into the year 2000, you can see that the light blue kind of like shifted and changed a little bit. So these are the emergent herbaceous wetlands in the year 2000. And then we go into 2021, And there's more that appeared over here, but then it disappeared over here. The last type of circle that represents change is a light blue one, which shows development going into water. I only have a single circle for this one, and it's this one right here, right next to Brighton Lake, because it's the only one that I could find, but I thought it was interesting enough to add it in. Even though it isn't wetlands, I still thought it was an interesting thing. So we are in the year 2000 right now. You can see that there is development right next to Brighton Lake. And if I move this into the year 2021, you can see that a lot of development was added, and a lot was actually added into the lake. So again, 2000, all of this right here wasn't there, but now it is there, which I thought it was pretty interesting. And the whole reason why I'm doing this is because of the speculation of all these changes within the watershed could affect what is happening around Orr Lake. We are trying to look for a correlation between development change and the flooding that is happening at the lake. And one of those could be the relationship between the wetlands and the development. I hope this information was helpful, and thank you for watching.
All right, so that was, first of all, awesome, the video that she put together. So she's been working on this throughout the year. And this came out of when we all had a meeting back in August 2021, right after the big flood that we had. We were in that meeting outdoors. One of the questions that kept coming up during that meeting is, well, what about all the land use changes up north, north of us in the Brighton area and such? It's increased a lot, and we've also seen increased flooding. Can we see some changes there? And as Lena said at the end of the video, that instigated her actually working on this as one of her projects this year with Innovation Academy, which has been great. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I will say that the video that she created is going to be up on our website, and I can also post it to our Facebook page. So it's available for anyone to watch as many times as you want, and how great it is. But I'm going to stop talking for a second, turn over to Lena. Lena, if you want to say anything else based on what you did or things you learned or whatever you'd like to say, we have certainly appreciated all of our work with you, and then also give folks a chance to ask questions if they have questions for you or for us.
Yeah, so you added on to it really well, besides the video. I really tried to explain as clearly as I could in the video because I know it's a lot to look at once. So I was wondering if there was anything you were confused on, any of you guys, after watching the video, or any questions you have.
Well done, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lena, I do have a question from Carol Richardson.
Yes.
Does any of it, I was understanding what you were communicating, but one thing I couldn't understand was if your graphs could somehow represent like covered up earth, so that, you know, in the watershed, so that, you know, the drain, I mean, you captured development and it's great. It validates exactly what we think. But one of the things that I think we know is when the earth is covered with either, you know, houses or roads or
Asphalt.
you know, something like that, then there's more runoff. So does that come through, or is there any way we can sort of look at that, or should we just assume that?
That's a good question. I know there are other things that we're trying to figure out to add onto the ArcGIS software. That's what the software is called, the ArcGIS. It can do much more than looking at development. And there's such a wide variety of things you can do. And that's a good question for one of the hydrologists, because I don't have that much information with the ArcGIS myself, because I'm just getting started. Like I just started to learn it. But yeah, you're wondering like if it specifically shows like how it affects the runoff, right?
Yeah, it just seems like when there's more, you know, from, well, covered earth, either by a building or a road or, you know, a deck, or not a deck, but like cement, then, you know, you're going to have less earth to absorb. And I think it definitely validates what we've experienced over the past 20 years here in Livingston County. But I was just kind of curious if there's any way to tease out that kind of data too.
Right.
Seems like there might be.
Yeah, we are trying to look for it because there definitely is a way to find actual numbers and like an actual percent change of the development within the watershed. I just, with the version that I have, we haven't been able to figure out yet how to show that up, but but we should be able to. We're just trying to figure that out.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So I'll piggyback off of what Lena just said. She did a great job at explaining that. So one of the things, first of all, props to Lena for 1,000 times over, but also just want to
Thank
note
you.
that she actually learned this on her own this year. So Howell got the technology. So what she has is an education version of the software, which looks different than what you'd find like at a university or such that our hydrologists use. And so Lena learned this on her own, did it on her own, and right, and then did get some help from Wendy Robertson, who's one of our hydrologists up at Central. But the challenge they had was that it was a technology difference, like a difference in versions. And so the version that Wendy has does do that type of correlating that you're talking about, Carol. The version that Lena has may do that correlating, but it's a little bit unclear what it looks like or where it is. That's actually one of the next steps that's going to happen next year. So sadly, Lena is leaving Innovation Academy. She's graduating. I say sadly, but she's probably super excited as a senior. So, you know, but that will be hopefully a project for some other students next year, is to start to do more of that direct correlation that Lena had started the steps, like started that process, and then get to more of the specifics you're asking. What questions do other folks have for her?
Just thanks, and that's amazing work, Lena. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So big props to Lena. We've really appreciated it. She, like I said, she also came out today to walk the creek because, you know, why not? It's super fun in this crazy heat. But yeah, it's been great. And I will say too, just as a heads up, that one of the things that we've also been talking with Lena about is publishing some of the work that she's done. So she and I, and like potentially a couple other folks, are going to start working on pulling together a manuscript in the next year, probably within the next few months, hopefully start that process to get her work published. So it's not just us experiencing it, but the world gets to see the unique methodology that she used for actually doing this work. So once that's out there in the world, hopefully it is, fingers crossed, we'll be able to share that too. All right, so with that, let me get back to where we were. So here we go. So that is, like I said, that was one of the projects that one of the students at Innovation Academy, Lena, did for us, which is, like we all said, incredible. There was also the underwater drone. The students were out walking the creek this year or today. And so one of the things we've talked about, and Jay, you can speak to this as well, is that we're looking to set up kind of some internships between our organization and Innovation Academy for some other high school students starting next year. And some of the projects we're looking at having them do is take, like I said, they came out and walked the creek today. So coming back with the GPS units we have and actually mapping out the watershed of Dubrova Creek, which currently is not mapped, to the extent that even the Livingston County Drain Commission didn't even know Dubrova Creek existed a couple of years ago until we made them come out and look at it. And so people don't really know where the water edges of that watershed is. And so one of the projects for them is to actually map that out for us. Another project, as we just talked about with Lena's, is actually quantifying that wetland land use change, like you were asking, Carol, and looking at it a little bit further. So taking what Lena did, which is awesome, and taking it even a step further to say, can we see like specific number differences as to what this means for more runoff and more flooding and such. And then, of course, we're always looking for other ideas as well, if other folks have some other projects that might be particularly helpful. So these would be internships for particular students like Lena, between Innovation Academy, to then work with folks here in our organization to kind of put all these pieces together as to what's going on with the flooding. Did you want to add anything in, Jay? Jay is one of the teachers there that we've been working closely with on all this.
Yeah, we're hoping Lena's a 1 in 500 quality student, but we're hoping to be able to pass along some of the responsibilities on to 1 or 2 students next year, and we'll be looking for adult mentors that have some experience in some of these areas that can also work with these students to give them a good idea of how to proceed on these types of projects. But we're really here to be kind of the person power for this organization. We have an underwater drone that we built ourselves. We have an aerial drone that we bought, and then we've got the students who can walk creeks, who can map different data points, and who can crunch data. during their school time. So we're here to help, and we're here to serve, and hopefully we can continue the partnership moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jay. And I appreciate you mentioning that. Having mentors from our organization would be particularly helpful. So Diane and I can't meet with everyone and do everything. And so if there's any of these projects or even other projects that seem particularly interesting to you, let us know. And you could help be like kind of a point person with a student coming in the future, starting next year, to try and help them with these projects. Even if you say you don't know what it means to map a watershed, that's okay. You can still be someone to meet with the student, ask them like if they have questions, try and help them work through a little bit, and then reach out to other folks like us or something to kind of liaison and such. So more mentorship and whatnot would be particularly helpful for any of these, and also, like you said, the underwater drone and anything else. So yeah, keep that in mind.
Hey, Amber, is it all right to, I mean, we're out of town for 3 months in the winter. Is it all right to mentor via Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with me. Jay, are you okay with that?
Absolutely. We're used to that now.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool.
Awesome. All right. And I would say too, the last thing I'll say with it, and I'm an educator, so this is the part I love about it, is that this is an awesome learning experience for them. Lena has learned how to use GIS because of her work with us, and then we gain all from their learning. So it's a really great partnership to have. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple of other projects we have going on. One of them I just want to just briefly mention, this is a thing. So the Hamburg Township has reached out to us a few months back saying that they were told by the county and also by the state of Michigan to actually pursue a FEMA grant. So previously we've helped them pursue FEMA grants with getting money to elevate homes. Those are still in the works. We haven't heard back from those. Those were submitted back in January. This one is different. This one is designed specifically to get money from FEMA to buy out properties and then actually turn them into green spaces. So what this would involve, again, this is just a grant proposal. This is putting it together with a few homeowners who are interested. The township is the sub-applicant, the state is the applicant. And then it helps the homeowners get out of struggling situations and turns the place into a green property. So basically what it means is the money that would come in if it were to get funded would go to the township. The township would use that money to buy out the properties. There's specific homeowners involved in it. So you can see there's 5 resident properties who've decided to participate. And the township would then go to them and say, hey, this is what we would give you to buy out your property. Homeowner would say yes or no. Those folks who've decided to participate, if they say yes, then the property becomes the township's property. They own it. They demolish all structures on it. And then it's required to keep that property as a green space, what's called in perpetuity, so forever. There's questions and there's different variations on like what FEMA allows for a green space. I have talked with Pat Hole, who's our township supervisor, and he has confirmed with me that the township is intending to keep these properties as conservation land, which would mean that's not public access. So for example, if there's a property this happens on Orr Lake, township buys it, demolishes the structures on it. Now you have this green space. That does not mean there's now public access to Orr Lake. This is conservation land. The township keeps it up and no one's allowed to be on it. So the purpose of it is to like hold water and allow water to actually seep through, percolate through, and not actually have more roofs and stuff like that, causing more runoff. So this is Hamburg Township's working with McKenna Group, which is they're writing the grant for them. They also did the other grants as well with our help for the other ones. Like I said, there's 5 residents involved or properties involved with this, and the deadline for the submission is June 1st. And so like all grants and anything with FEMA really takes a while, so we won't know for quite a while, but this is something that we've been a little bit involved with. It's more the township thing, but just kind of giving people a heads up on it.
Amber,
Yes.
did you say it's not possible for individuals to join this or no?
I mean, if you are interested, yes, but you'd have to let me know like right now.
Oh, no, it's not me personally. I was just thinking of a few houses that are abandoned on Little Oar and have been for, years and years. And I just was curious, it would take a while to find out who owns the property.
Yeah, so some of the properties that have been struggling and some people that were struggling, they were part of the process in January. And so those folks have already been contacted to see if they'd be interested in this. And like I said, we have 5 property owners who've said yes. So does that sort of half answer your question, Carol?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then the other last like issue that we're going to talk about, I'm not going to go into depth necessarily, but more and specifically focus on kind of the steps moving forward. So we had a meeting back in March to let folks know that during the Hamburg Township Board of Trustees meeting on November 2nd, after the big flood in August, there was a vote to actually raise the minimum or the minor flood level based on the gauge. It's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, NOAA. The NOAA gauge that's on the Huron River downstream of us at the Hamburg Road Bridge. That's the one that we kind of gauge like where the river is and kind of tells people like what does that mean for flooding and things like that. And that's what NOAA, the National Weather Service, and the township refer to when we have flooding. They base it on what the level is on the gauge. It was for the August 2021 flood, and prior to that, it was the flood level, minor flood level, 6.5 feet. During this meeting, they raised that to 7 feet. I'm happy to go into explanation later as to details about what that is. My understanding from talking with township folks and lots of different conversations and whatnot, my understanding for the reason for this. So this is what you see when you go onto their website. And so this is where it was. So you can see it says minor at 7 feet. So that's now the new flood level based on the gauge. And basically my understanding is there's two reasons why they did this. One, they're arguing that what was happening at 6.5 feet or is happening at 6.5 feet, they're saying is not actually flooding, even though many of us sitting on this call are experiencing flooding at 6.5 feet, which is something we're going to be talking about how we're going to respond to that discrepancy. But the other issue that they're coming to this with is the fact that so they're basing this language on the National Weather Service language as to what constitutes minor flooding. Again, I'll go through all the details if people want at another time. But basically, there is a law here in Michigan that says the township can only instill no wake on a waterway one time a year. And if you have the minor flooding at 6.5 feet and you say that, well, then we're going to do no wake at that time, well, then that's fairly low compared to like we had the flood in August was over 8 feet. So then you'd obviously want to instill the one time a year, the no wake at 8 feet. Now, when I say instill this law, what that means is that gives the township the ability to actually send police officers out on Ore Lake and the river and jet skis and wherever, and actually give people citations and tickets for going faster. So for creating a wake. That's what that is. So, but the township can only instill that and enforce that one time a year. So that's my understanding as to why it's happened. Flood stage, as you can see, is now at 7 feet. So there's a couple things that we're actually doing to respond to this. Again, I can go through these details before, but what does it matter for us? It matters for us because the township doesn't really provide support until the river gauge now is at that minor flooding, which is now 7 feet versus 6.5 feet. It also affects us because we don't get warnings that there's a chance of flooding until the river hits action stage, which previously the action stage was 6 feet. Now with the increased flood level, the action stage is 6.5 feet. So we're not even going to get a warning of potential flooding and saying, hey, you should raise things off your property until it hits 6.5 feet. The other thing, like I said, is that they can't instill this no wake law until it hits a certain, like only one time a year. So that's where that is. So this is why it matters. So there's a few things that we as residents are doing to respond to this. One is that we are looking to try and put in more of a community-wide no wake on Ore Lake. Ore Lake is fairly low. Most of us sitting here live on Ore Lake or around, and I'll talk about what that's going to mean in a moment here. The other thing is because, let me take a step back. So again, because the township had said through conversations that one of the reasons why they changed or raised the flood level was because what they were getting from aerial footage that was happening at 6.5 feet didn't actually match the language that's considered minor flooding through the National Weather Service. I can go through that language at another time if you want, but there's specific things that it says for the minor flooding. The township is saying, well, we're not getting those at 6.5 feet. We're getting those at 7 feet, which is why they raised it. We as homeowners are saying, well, no, we actually do get that at 6.5 feet. But the problem is we can't just go back to the township and say, well, we do get it at 6.5 feet. Nothing will happen. That would just be them saying something, us saying something, and nothing moving forward. So to respond to that is that we want to actually collect data, visual data, photographic evidence of, hey, this is what's happening when we're flooding. And based on the date and time, we can map that to what the river level is and actually show them and say, here, at all these times at 6.5 feet, this is all the flooding we're getting. It really should be at that. which we're going to be talking about how to do that in a little bit. Before I do that, I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about the no wake on Orr Lake. Before I jump into the no wake part, does anyone have questions about the flood level change broadly? Again, I can go into specifics later, but broadly, are there any questions for that?
I was just going to comment that I love where the blue line is.
There's just a random Google PowerPoint slide. But yeah, it worked well, didn't it? All right, so the community-wide no wake. So what we're arguing, and this is the same level it was before they did this change, is what we would appreciate as homeowners is to have no wake on our lake set at 6.5 feet. So this came out of a meeting with the homeowners presidents and leaders around the lake, homeowners association presidents and leaders, and lots of other conversations with other community members and people saying, hey, I'm still flooding at 6.5 feet, even if the township tells me I'm not. And so even though the township isn't going to do anything at 6.5 feet, we as homeowners can hold each other accountable. And so through this, what we're looking to do is kind of set our own no wake at 6.5 feet. To do this, an informational flyer is going to be put together and actually handed out to, well, put in on the little flags and mailboxes to all homeowners that live on the water and also those behind the water that have access over Memorial Day weekend. So you'll get information about this. And basically what it's going to mean is that when the river hits 6.5 feet on that gauge that I was telling you about, then some folks who are going to help coordinate, Kurt Richardson on the call here, thanks Kurt, and Tom Toko are going to kind of coordinate some other residents around the lake to put up signs that say no wake. They're just the no wake signs.
Yeah.
And they're going to put them up all at the same time just to let everyone know, hey, please go slow, because if you go fast, you're going to damage your boat by running over a dock that's flooded that you can't see. And you're also going to cause damage on other people's properties. So please go slow. That's what the signs are there for. And then once the river goes back down, then the signs will be taken down again. So it's like a coordinated effort to try and hold ourselves accountable with each other and help each other so that we're not getting so much damage everywhere by other folks. So that's kind of the community aspect here. Again, it's being coordinated more by Kurt Richardson and Tom Toko to set it all up. I will say our organization is going to foot the bill for the signs. Bob Sifton on the call was awesome and found signs to purchase, no wake signs. So we will pay for those, assuming I get approval, and also the equipment to actually put them up. So we will help with the cost of the signs and the equipment, and then other folks are going to be working on putting them up at the right times and taking them down at the right times. So with this, does anyone have any questions about this? Again, you'll get a flyer over Memorial Day weekend, but I just want to give a moment.
Amber?
Yeah.
Am I up or is that Carrie?
Yep, go for it.
Oh, I'll offer to pay for those signs out of pocket. I don't need to be reimbursed. We just need somebody to figure out how to buy those things you were talking about for flotations or whatever. But I'll pay for those signs out of pocket as a contribution to Orr Lake.
That's really nice of you, Bob. You don't have to do that. We have the money from our grant, but I appreciate that. But
Okay.
that is a good point. Maybe if you can talk, I can put you in touch with Kurt and Tom and maybe even Carrie as well to finagle what it's going to mean to get the signs up, maybe on flotation devices that can be like tied off to some people's docks and maybe some other things so people can see them when they're on the water.
Right, and that's what I wasn't able to find out, things like that. We usually just take it and stake it to our docks and our association, all of our different docks there. We'll stake it to that to let people know. But flotation devices and things like that, like I say, I'm not computer savvy. I couldn't figure it out.
That's fair.
That might be a bit busy, and I think what's going to happen is it will depend on who's putting the sign up where, what kind of amount they'll need. So they may not all be sort of a generic type thing. A lot of people build them to a dock. Some people are going to stick them in their yard and whatever. So I think we need to just look at where they're going to go and then figure out how to mount them. Maybe. Spoken
like a true engineer. I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
No, I love it. It's good. I was raised by engineers. I feel that every day. Yeah, no, that sounds great. All right. Well, we'll put a few of you folks together, lock you in a Zoom room somewhere, and you can like finagle all those details.
Yep.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions about this?
Well, I only had a couple of questions. So I've recruited a couple of more volunteers. John Royster is one. And there generally seemed to be a lot of interest in just putting whatever signs were available out on the end of docks or even on someone's pontoon, though Tom did have some ideas about a floating sign thing, but I think we need to, iron that out a little bit more. But Bob, do you know approximately when the signs will be available?
Yes, they're available now,
Oh,
and that's, I emailed Amber, I can buy them
Okay.
now, put it on my account. And as I said, I would be willing to just pay for that. There's 20 available, and that's what I was gonna buy, was 20. I wasn't sure how many
okay.
we agreed to buy at the last meeting. But there's 20 available right now, and I could purchase all those for like $300 or something like that, or $200, but I'll pay for that out of my own pocket. I don't care.
What are the sizes of those signs? The size on,
Yeah.
Slow no wake. If I knew how to do it, I could do it. They're like 12 by 16, I think it is. White with red lettering, and it's reflective to where you can read it at night as well.
wow, that's
So,
good.
That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
I sent a picture of it to Amber. Again, I don't know what I'm doing on a computer. I hope she could figure out what I was sending to her, but it's like a 12 by 16 sign or something like that, and reflective. And they have 20 available. I was going to buy all 20, but I wanted to get the okay from Amber and the rest of the guys to make sure that that's what we want.
So Bob, these aren't signs that we designed. These are pre-existing signs that they have for No Wake.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Kerry.
I said, these are signs that are pre-existing No Wake signs, not something we designed.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep. They're just big red
I-
signs
this
with
will
white
sound
lettering
silly,
that
but
says No Wake.
So you did see it
This
then,
will be
Amber?
silly, but if I had my
I
way,
did,
they'd
yes.
be the size of a
Okay.
3 by. Yeah, this sounds silly, but if they were up to me, I'd have them the size of a 3x5 flag, and great big letters, because if I'm 100 feet offshore, I can't read it. If I'm 100 feet offshore, I can't read it.
Well, this way they can run right up to your dock to read what you have out there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, we can continue conversations about the signs at another time. I want to
Yeah.
make sure we get to the last part.
Right.
So this is that's about the community efforts. And once we finish going through all this, then if folks want, I can try and pull a picture up of the signs so you can see them. But like I said, this is for a community around Orr Lake. But again, one of the things we want to do is gather data, visual data, photographic evidence of what's actually happening on our properties anytime the water's up. So that we can compile that together and go back to the township and say, no, look, at 6.5 feet, we actually are flooding. It actually is what minor flooding based on these categories from the National Weather Service. Please put it back down to 6.5 feet. So to do that, Carrie has been wonderfully working with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. And they've been putting together, was an app, but actually now is a website. He's going to walk us through /me in a moment here, but how to actually use it to collect the data. So basically with this, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to use your phone, take pictures of the flooding. It's automatically going to record the date and time you took the photos, any other information you decide to add into it. It all gets compiled together. We get all of the data, and then we can take that back to the township. I will also say with that photographic data, Rod Lammers, who is the engineering modeling guy, hydrologist at Central Michigan, he's actually going to be able to use all of that data and actually come up with models of where the flooding is at different levels here. So we can take that back as well to the township.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, but in this case, I'm going to actually share the website, and then Carrie gets to walk me through. We'll see how technologically savvy I am, how to do this,
And me.
because you all are going to have to be doing this on your devices, which Carrie also will put a video together about how to do this. It'll go on our website, but this way you'll get to kind of see what it looks like here. All right, Carrie, take it away.
So this app started out as something you had to download on your phone with iOS or Android, but now what they did from a legal standpoint, and the fact that Woods Hole wants to broadcast this out to other communities, is they just basically created a web app. So it runs in the cloud. So you don't need to download anything. All you really need to do is, if you look up at the URL, it's just http://iflood.org. And once you do that, you can just throw that on your screen so you can get to it. It's real simple. And when you click on it, it just takes you right to the screen. On the top right, it'll say menu. It's underneath Amber's picture there, but you don't really need to click on menu because it gets you to the same place. So really what you're going to do is it walks you through and tells you exactly what to do. So you're going to click on report flooding right in the middle. And if everything's working good, you want your email, and not because we're trying to sell it or anything else, but it needs to know if this is really you that's putting it in. And then this is one of the cool first things that it does: get my current position. And once in a while it'll bounce, but usually it works pretty good. And it'll actually even,
Oh, didn't like that one.
try again.
That's probably
Sometimes
because
you
I'm
just
on a computer versus being outside.
That's why. Okay, well, either way, if you can't do it from the computer, what it'll do is it'll actually come up with your address and the latitude and longitude, which is really handy. So then you just scroll down, and you don't necessarily need to click that button that says Great Lakes, but I do it anyway just because it's simple. And then these are the simple questions that was in the original version. Where's the flood? And these are going to seem like really third grade kind of things, but this is how it works. And how deep is it? And do you know if there was rain? And you can say, yeah, there was light rain. And then this next one is where you choose a file. And if you click on that, it'll turn on your camera and you could take a picture of the flooded area. And that's really kind of the important part. And then where the additional comments are, and I would suggest something that I tried today and it worked really well. Before I do this, I go onto the Hamburg Bridge Road site and I get the actual number from that gauge and I put it in the comments. So what that does is it gives us the actual road, the actual gauge height, 855.1 or whatever it is, and it ties that to this particular entry. So that locks it together. So later on, nobody has to go back and say, hey, I took a picture and it was halfway into my yard, but I don't know what the gauge said. You can always go back and find it. But if we include that here, then you know you've always got it. So you do that, you agree to it, and put any other comments you want, like facing north or however you want. Then you just agree to the terms of use and scroll down. Yep, something like that. You can tell a
Not a
computer
robot.
that you're not a robot, which it normally, on a phone, it doesn't do this, but
Yeah, apparently on the computer it does.
you're probably better at this than I am. On a phone, it doesn't actually do all that. And then you just click submit. And that's all there is to it. And all these entries are going to go into a database that we can get that data from. And we can say, look, as Amber stated before, if we want to have some evidence to talk about, well, wait, you guys went from 6.5 to 7 feet. We can prove it 6.5 feet. We already have issues. And here's the photographic evidence, the data, the location, the GPS, everything that we need to present data and have our scientists help us to present a state that says, look, we we want to push back against this, and here's the evidence we can do that with.
Right.
So this
And
is
I-
about the simplest piece of software I've ever seen to do something like that with. It's really, really easy to use on your phone.
And I will add in to what Carrie just said. So it's really helpful because it compiles everything together for us, which is awesome. But the big thing is I was doing it on the computer, so you weren't able to see a whole lot, but it will get your automatic location. If you don't add the gauge level, which is okay, then it's okay. It just like I said, I wrote something in there about like facing the lake north. That's fine too. You don't have to get the gauge level. We can do that backtracking later. He was just saying that it would save us one step, but it's not that big of a deal. Don't feel like you have to look at multiple sites to do this. So this is just using, like I said, it's real quick on the website. Carrie's going to put a video together of how to do it. That video will go up on our website. And also in that video, Carrie, I'm going to just volunteer you to do this as well. To also mention how how people can like save this as like kind of a icon on their phone. So you don't have to keep going to a website. It just automatically is on your phone to click on. So it's a little bit easier. So we're trying to make this easier for folks so that we can get all this data, like you said, to be able to come back to the township and say, hey, look, we're actually flooding at 6.5, contrary to what you said, or 6.7 or whatever it may be.
Very
All
good.
right.
Thank
So go ahead, Carrie. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
All right. So with that, what questions do people have about that, about other things that we've talked about, other things they want to bring up? We are at the end of what I was going to go through, but I want to give people space to actually talk, ask questions, share some other ideas or concerns or whatnot, all that stuff.
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, with this, thank you very much for coming. This has been awesome to always have you. It's always great to see folks. Lena, thank you 1,000 times over for your awesome work with the GIS. That's been great. Jay, thanks for having us meet Lena. Yay for that. That's been great, along with the other students. Claire, thank you for starting everything that we're doing. Deanna for helping us meet Jay, and Kurt for your work with and Bob, your work with getting the signs and all that stuff, and Diane for doing literally everything that I don't do. So thank you all for all of the help. The more, the merrier, and all of that. So I will stay on for folks if they want to keep chatting, but by all means, go rest and all that. Apparently, I also have a tiny human here. So
Thank you.
Great
Amber.
job, Lena.
Thank you so much.
You're a